DJ Immortal, live in the mix.
All right, Outlaw Radio Live fans, we are live on the air with multi-platinum recording artist Kevin Rudolf. How are you doing this evening?
Good, man. How you doing?
I am doing wonderful, man. I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I have to ask you, Kevin, I know you're a very busy guy, so I'm going to get right into this interview. What made you decide to get into the music industry initially?
Well, I grew up playing guitar, and I started when I was about 11, and I grew up in New York City, so I had a lot of that, not industry stuff around, but a lot of art and culture and fashion and music, and, I was going to clubs when I was like 13 and sneaking in and trying to get drinks and everything, but, it was really starting from a love for the guitar, and then that kind of sort of led to like, well, what do I do with this thing? I guess I'm gonna like write songs now and maybe have a band or join a band or so. Just the evolution of playing in some bands and just sort of finding my way, and then realizing, as time went on, that I wanted more control, and in order to get that control, I had to write my own songs, and then to get more control, I had to produce my own songs. So that led me down that path of being really sort of all-inclusive within myself to make my own art. And then I one thing leads to another. I got a record deal and got signed, got dropped, and then went back behind the scenes, started playing guitar with Timbaland and working more in the hip-hop urban world, I guess you could say, and that which led to Cash Money.
And also, you were part of an alternative rock group known as Paint. I have to ask you, how did you and Paint initially get together? What's the story of that formation?
I was just this young, 15-year-old kid and just bouncing around New York, and it was just, met some guys, and they were looking for a guitar player, and I was excited about, different kinds of music at the time, and I was going through a lot of phases, too, at the time. I was like a real rocker when I was a kid. I was into shredding and guitar playing and, music theory, and was very, all those things. Like, I was very into music, and then Paint was more of a kind of like, sort of like a Britishy kind of shoegazer, kind of like, real ambient sort of kind of guitar heavy music, and that's how, just got into that, and then that was another like year of playing in clubs, but it was so much fun. It was just a great year of my life.
And you were also signed to Madonna's record label called Maverick. I have to ask you, how did that record deal come to be for you, and what was it like working for Madonna?
Well, I didn't actually ever meet Madonna. From what I understand, she heard the music, but it was really her partner, Guy Oseary, who I think still manages her, actually. So he heard her. I found a manager, and the first time I really decided to make my music completely myself, and I was producing, and I was writing it. I was like in my mom's bedroom. I was like, I don't know, 18, 19, whatever. And not in my mom's bedroom. I mean, my bedroom in my mom's apartment. So I heard, it was just like a time when like it's different than now. It's not the streaming era where you're like, you throw your stuff up online and you either blow up or you grow or you don't. It was like record deal time, and I had a manager, and he had some connections. We sent some, demos out. People were making demos back then, and a couple labels were interested. Maverick was one, DreamWorks was another. I went to LA and did my rounds and went to Rick Rubin's house. I was like all excited. Everything was like brand new. It was out in LA, and then they offered me a deal. So I made a record, and then sold about 12 copies.
That must be really cool. That must have been an amazing experience, going from making music in your bedroom as a kid growing up dreaming to sitting in Rick Rubin's house, man. That is most definitely an accomplishment.
Yeah, no, it's really fun when you can create something on your own, and then it becomes sort of like a passport into another world. And that's really exciting because it's like you feel like I created this thing which people are interested in, and that was exciting. But it's also sort of equally depressing making a record and then
And also, two of the songs two of your songs were used in the hit TV show Smallville, called "Maybe You're Gone" and the song "You." How does it feel knowing your music was featured in a major TV show?
Well, there's been a lot of stuff like that since then. It's always fun and exciting. I mean, it's nice to. I guess one of the most fun parts about making music is that you are sort of, fusing yourself into pop culture somehow. I always love the idea that, something I made while I was sleeping, someone was dancing to a record in Australia or something like that, or watching it on a TV show, or, I don't know, some sports event, and, it's all fun. It's all great stuff.
And also, like you mentioned as well, you have done work with Timberland. How did you and Timberland initially get connected? What's the story behind that?
That was through, in that process when I was on Maverick, I met Jimmy Douglas, who was Timberland's mixer, engineer, someone who worked closely with him. And I was, I went through, like I said, I went through a lot of phases musically. And one of those, I was really fascinated by that sort of early, mid-2000s hip-hop production. I was just a big fan of the Neptunes and Timbaland and Kanye and Dr. Dre and, the stuff that was being made. I guess it was like late 90s into early 2000s. It seemed like the most innovative music sonically, in terms of just the textures and the rhythms, and if they still managed to actually have hit records that were, really in mass pop culture, but still innovative. And I loved that, and I loved, again, finding a new way to express myself, and I was exploring at the time. So I went down there, and I talked to Jimmy and said, do you mind if I come down and just sort of watch, and I'll bring my guitar and see if I can offer something up in return, and make myself valuable as opposed to just another person sitting in the room just like standing there. So I started playing guitar in some of those records, Lil Kim and Justin Timberlake and LL Cool J, and a lot of the stuff he was working on. There were little guitar parts. They're not major parts of the song, but it was just nice to be involved, and that was just sort of a way that I could get myself into that world and learn and absorb as a producer.
And also, when when I did my research, actually, I did not know this one, but when you actually worked with Timberland, it actually led for you to be a guitar player for Lil Kim. I have to ask you, like, how did that feel, just knowing that you started working with Timberland and then you started working with Lil Kim? Like, what was it like working for her?
Well, it was, again, she wasn't even there, so it was really just Timbaland in the studio. He would make the records. He's a fantastic producer, but he's primarily, I want to say primarily a beat maker, because he really is a consummate music producer. I believe that he's amazing. But the part that most of the time goes into on his end, I think, is more of the production, and then the vocals are cut, and then it's mixing and adding and taking away and finishing the record. So I would be more part of that section with her. Some of the other stuff, like we did with Justin Timberlake, we were in the studio with him for a few days, but I can't really say that I was. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't really come into my own until later. I was very much like a fly on the wall, and really just sort of trying to contribute and get in where I could fit in as a musician in a much more beat driven genre.
And when you started, I mentioned about the fly on the wall type of thing. When I first heard you, it was a song called "Let It Rock." And that's actually my next question. And I know you probably answered this a million times on many different interviews. But I want to ask you, like, the legendary song that you made with Lil Wayne, "Let It Rock," what's the story behind that single? And how does it feel knowing that song is still being played all over the world on the radio today?
Well, the second part of your question is, I think it's amazing. I love it. I love... sometimes you do things as an artist, as a producer, that you're like, yeah, that's like my shit, and you're just like, it's like you feel really good about it. Sometimes you feel like, all right, that was cool, like I was a part of that, and it's successful, and that's fun, but Let It Rock was a record that was from my soul. That was a very important record for me at the time. That was a defining song of that album, my first album in the city. So, it's funny to me because I think back to it, and I was channeling all my rage and rebellion and anger at, whatever my, youthful angst at injustice in the world and whatever I was going through at the time, and putting it into that song. And I was really talking to a certain voice at the time, and through a certain voice at the time. And it's funny because like 50-year-old women come up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I work out to that song," and I'm like, "You do? I mean, like how? It's so much rage in that." But I understand it's also somehow it became like this pop club, hit phenomenon, which is again amazing for me because it got me in front of a whole other group of millions of people that I didn't think I would ever reach when I was making that album. I thought I was making like a very underground kind of, like, to me, it was New York City. Growing up in the city was my muse. It was called In the City, and I was talking. I wanted to sort of channel all of my feelings growing up. It was a lot of coming of age stuff. There were stories woven in from my childhood into that album, and then I came out as like rock pop guy on Cash Money, and which is great. I'm not mad at it. That I wanted to do well, but I didn't see it quite happening that way. So it was surprising. It was new. It was a lot of kind of readjusting, but it was an amazing ride to be on. It was a great roller coaster. That song took me all over the world. It's really, really, I'm very thankful for it.
And if you don't mind me asking, if you don't mind me asking, sorry, how many times did that actually go platinum? Because I must have went platinum quite a few times.
I think it's like U.S. It's around. If it's not 5 times platinum, it's about 5 times. And then worldwide, I think it's another million or two. And I think that was also in the time of ringtones. So I think we sold like another million ringtones. I mean, it's definitely like with everything combined, it's in the probably 7-ish, 8-ish range.
Holy crap! I didn't think it was that. That's crazy though. Like that must be an amazing feeling for an artist like you, because not a lot of artists can really say like, look, like my single went 7-time platinum. Like that's absolutely amazing.
It is amazing. I don't know what to chalk it up to. I put a lot of intent behind that record, and I believed in it, but I do that with everything I do. So you don't know those ones that are just going to go. Sometimes, whatever. I just the stars align. Sometimes it's just, that was also a time in my life where I felt like I have to make it. I cannot, like, I've been, this is what I'm doing, and I have to make it. And it was, I think the intensity was maybe felt in that. Maybe just the right record, right time. I don't know. If I had a magic, thing I could just stir into my drink and just do that, then that would be, life would be easy. But those records don't come along every day.
And also, on your very first record as well, you had the privilege of working with the legendary Nas, East Coast rapper. What was it like working with him?
I did. It was just such a dream come true. And it was a song called NYC, and it was a song that was very much, I was just talking about my, I was like channeling my youth angst stuff in New York and all my stuff and my references, and then he put his references in, and, Gold Bar and the Hilton, and then, all it's halal food. I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe, because he's talking about all the shit that I know too, that I was growing up with. So, it was just such a feeling of validation, excitement. It was just like, it was really a dream come true to just have him on there, and that makes me, feel great knowing that he's, I had an amazing trio of Rick Ross, Nas, and Lil Wayne on my first album. I mean, that's pretty, it's pretty big. Well, I don't want to say big. It's just there's just really credible, great artists to have on there.
And also, my personal favorite song that you've done is "I Made It." I've been listening to that song since high school, and I still have it on repeat to this day. I have to ask you, what's the story behind that
Appreciate
iconic
that.
song? Like, what's the meaning behind it, and how did that song come to be with you and Cash Money Heroes?
It came up. Excuse me. I just moved to LA, and I was sort of segueing like into some like a lot of behind the scenes production stuff. Let It Rock opened up a lot of doors, obviously in the industry, I guess you could say. And you have a hit out of the box like that, and someone's like, "Hey, can we get one of those?" So I was suddenly in the studio with a lot of different artists, and then Slim, and Baby they wanted like an all-star Cash Money. They wanted to call it, I don't know if I can't remember if they were calling Cash Money Heroes, but anyway, it was going to be called Cash Money Heroes, and it was going to have me and everyone was supposed to be on it. I mean, Lil Wayne, obviously, Birdman, Jay Sean. They wanted Drake on it. Everybody was going to get on it. I mean, it was like one of those, sort of like crazy, brilliant ideas that Baby would come up with, where it's like, I want everybody on. I want the whole label on. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things, and I'm like, great, all right, it sounds amazing. So I'm just making a beat like I would do, and any other day, and came up with the hook, and then we sent it around, and again, it goes into like another machine of Cash Money world, where you sort of, hey, like, what's going to happen here? We don't know. And then got a verse back from Wayne, and then got a verse back from Jay Sean, and then got a verse back from Baby, and we started putting them in, and the song was already like almost 5 minutes long. And then I didn't have a verse on it; I was just singing the hook. And then Slim called and he said, "Yo, I want a verse from you, Kev." And I was like, "All right." So I put a verse, and now we got like 4 verses here. It's getting long, So, and then never got anything back from Drake or anyone else. So we had a complete song, and then I sent it back, and we had it mixed, and then people at Universal at Republic were like, "Yo, Kev, I love your new single." I was like, "What single?" It's like, "I Made It" song. I was like, "No, you mean Cash Money Heroes?" It's like, yeah, Cash Money Heroes. I was like, "Well, no," I was like, "That's not my. That's like a gang song, like where that's like our Cash Money Heroes. That's what it will be. It's not my single." They're like, "No, it's your single. It's coming out." I was like, "It is?" Like, yeah. It's like, okay, all right, like, I'm not mad at it. I love the record, so it's kind of like not an accident, but it was an accident with my song, or took a different direction, but that's what happened.
And also with that song, I don't know if a lot of listeners would know this as well, but it is also the WrestleMania 26 theme for Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, career versus streak. How did that song actually become WrestleMania 26's theme song? Like, what's the story behind that?
I've been really, really lucky with the WWE. They've been really supportive from day one. They used Let It Rock. They used Welcome to the World. They used I Made It. They like, and on and on. It's just been, and they recently just used Do You Feel Me in Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, their other new show. So it's just been a long-standing relationship with the WWE. They're really supportive. I guess they feel that what I do fits their fan base, and it just sort of makes sense. And they're just great to deal with. They're great people over there. They're like, they take care of business. They're really on it. Everything is great. I played SummerSlam, and I think it was 2012, and I just like the way they do their stuff. They're just, they got a really strong organization, and it's cool to be working with them.
So I have to ask you, before you got into before WWE called you, were you actually a wrestling fan before you started working alongside World Wrestling Entertainment?
It's funny. When I was a kid, I think when I was like much younger, when I was probably, more like adolescent years, I was really into it. I had some of the, the wrestling toys, or the, wrestlers and everything like that. So, like the Andre the Giant stuff or whatever was going on at the time. And then, I don't know, I kind of, I segued into music, and then kind of just lost interest in sports in general, and, wrestling is a different thing a little bit, but it was funny because when I started working with him, I got excited, like I was like, all the memories of my childhood coming back.
And when you
I've become a fan again because of that, yeah.
So I know, let me ask you, when you actually, just one more thing about the WWE, when you actually like first walked in there and you're working with them, Who's the first person you've seen that really, really made you spark that inner child of yourself?
I don't know. It was really probably doing the SummerSlam that put me in front of all John Cena were there, all those guys were there. I mean, they're just you meet everybody, and it was just like they just got their own thing, they're living in their own world there. It's really cool to see, and they just take it on the road, and I'm a fan of the whole thing. It's cool.
And you also performed at the 2009 NBA All-Star. I believe it was the game or the slam dunk competition. But what was it like doing that performance?
Yeah. Well, I was really, really sick, like you can't imagine. When you're riding the roller coaster of a hit song, you're on the road like every day. You're on a different flight every day. And we're at some radio show convention for, I guess it was Clear Channel in the Bahamas, and I got really, really sick. And my whole band flew to the All-Star game. It was in Arizona, in Scottsdale, Phoenix, and I had to stay a couple days later. I just could not get on a flight. I was like throwing up every toilet I walked by, basically, for like 3 days. And then the doctors came from the NBA and they shot me with the B12 or whatever, threw on the guitar. And I told the driver, I was like, wait by the stage because I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Like it was like that. I was that sick. And I got through Let It Rock. We did it. Jumped in the car, went back to the hotel, and passed out. So, was it fun? Yeah, it was amazing to be there. But I was so in another world just because I was so sick. But it was, so much fun, great experience. Other than that.
And it just also proves how dedicated you are to your music and to your fans because you were really sick. You could have said,
no, you can't cancel. You can't cancel. I'd be up there. The show must go on. I'd be up there in a wheelchair if I had to.
And then that's a good analogy to have, man. It really is. And I do want to say thank you for many years of wonderful music, man. And then also, you also co-wrote a song with country artist Keith Urban. What was it? Was it a different transition going from hip hop to the genre of country?
It's so funny. I think about that a lot lately because I'm seeing the way music's going and all these styles are merging and changing and fusing, and I love the fact that people are they're very open. It's not like back in the day it was like a hip hop head was a hip hop head and that's like all they listened to, or if you listen to heavy metal you only listen, you were like listening to Metallica, you weren't going to listen to Sade or whatever, spare time. But it's very, it's sort of like very subsection, and it's breaking down a lot. But I came from a really like a music based background, like the way I started with guitar, and I don't hear music as genres. I hear music as like chords and melody and textures and sounds. I mean it. Like that's really how I hear it, and I'm a little bit like genre blind, which is sort of a blessing and a curse because sometimes I think, wow, like this is a great song, everyone's gonna love this, and people, are like, yeah, it's cool. It's like, well, where's your normal stuff? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? This is me. Like it's still me. Like I'm not. What do you think? I do the same thing every day. It's like I love exploring styles, so I don't see it as that different. I understand how it looks to the world, though. So really, I mean, that was a product of me going to Nashville for 2 days and trying that writing session world, and at the time, and I ended up later moving to Nashville and really getting into it more, which was fun as well. But I went to Nashville for 2 days, and one of the sessions we wrote that song, and then I was mixing one of my own songs, and the head of Capitol called, and it was the time I think he was A&R-ing Keith's album, and he said, "You got any country stuff?" And I was like, "Well, I got one song." I got 2 songs, but one of them's actually really good. And I sent it to him, and he calls back. He's like, "I played it for Keith. It's the first single." I was like, all right, great. Yeah, cool. I didn't write it with Keith. I wrote it with these guys, the Warren Brothers, in Nashville. So it was kind of that easy. That was, that's the blessing of when, you have that momentum going where things that would take years or be really hard to get into. They just sort of like happen every other day because you're just in it like that, you know. But that was also really fortunate. That was really cool, and I'm a big fan of Keith. He's fucking great.
And two of your newest singles that are recently just been released are Watch Me Now and Social Anxiety. What's the inspiration behind those tracks? And also, where can our listeners buy or stream those singles?
Well, they can listen or buy them on any digital platform at the moment, you know, iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Napster, Deezer, Pandora Radio, anywhere your local products are found. But what was the question? What's your inspiration? You know, it's a couple things. Like I started, I think I was like last year. I put out a record, also featuring Lil Wayne, called "I Will Not Break," and a couple other ones, "Hold Your Head High," and I think it was like sort of like, okay, let me, you know, sort of rediscovering where I was coming from even 10 years ago, and sort of finding, like, I don't know how to describe it, like artistically sort of recultivating where I was, but trying to move it forward. And then I think it was about 4 or 5 months ago, I started just getting really into guitar again. And I started getting some great guitar sounds again. And I just was like, what am I doing? Like messing around with, like, I want to do live sounding instruments. I don't want to do synths anymore. I don't want to do program stuff. I don't want to do what anyone else is doing in that area. I want to use guitar, bass, and drums to do everything. I want to keep everything really simple. I want to focus on the songs, and I want to go deeper into my craft in that way. And I want it to be more organic, and I want it to feel what it feels like to me as more classic, long-lasting music. I mean, I'm fortunate that the stuff I've done lasted as long as it has and continues to, but I felt like I always felt sort of misunderstood, and I wanted to go deeper into why that is, and what's going on where I'm not communicating the music in a way that is being understood the way I want it to be. I know that's kind of like a long-winded version of what you probably needed to hear, but the answer to it moving forward is that I'm now in a process like where the next album, which is going to come out in May, and I'm going to drop a few more singles before that. So this album is really more of an exploration, and I don't feel like I've locked into like one thing I'm going to do, and I just feel like music is very free right now. People like what they like. I don't think it has to be any one thing. So I'm kind of like doing, you know, it's like an offering, if you will, of just different sides of myself musically as I was coming up, things that influenced me, things that I wanted to recall and group together, and then just put that out and then sort of move forward from that. Because it's funny, it's like I almost, even after doing it for so long and working with so many other people, I still feel like a beginner, and I still feel like I'm excited again, and I'm excited about technology because it offers the ability to do what I wanted to do as a kid, which was make rock records, but I couldn't because studios were too expensive, and it was like too hard to like pull a whole band together and rent a studio and an engineer and a mixer and a thing, and every time it seemed like it was getting closer, it went further away, which forced me into controlling it more myself, which was a good thing. But now I can do all those things myself, and it's all available to me to get it to sound the way I want. So to keep going and continue my very long answer, really what I'm doing now is more like sort of mining my creative self and exploring different avenues. So the record, if you're looking for a cohesive album, don't buy this because that ain't it. This is going to be like me trying a lot of different things, and hopefully the audience comes with me on the journey and grows with me, and I can continue to do the best stuff I can do.
And I first and foremost got to say, Kevin, I'm with you on that ride. Come May, when you do drop that album release, I'm going to pick up a copy, and I'm going to make sure that is my summer anthem.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So I have to ask you, Kevin,
Thank you.
what's next for you, man? Other than the album, do you have any shows, any other projects that you're working on, or anything new that you would like to promote while we still have you here on the line?
Well, like I said, what I'm doing is I'm working on the album right now. You know, I haven't booked any shows right now. I really feel like I need to, and I've also haven't booked any real outside production stuff. I'm really wanting to just be laser focused with my time and energy on just going deeper with my own creativity. I feel like it's just such an open, like it's just like open right now. Like you can make anything, you can put it up. A couple days later, the whole world can hear it, and I love that. And so I want to do as much of that as I can, and I'd like to get 3 albums done and out by the end of the year, and just be very free with it. And it doesn't mean again, I can't, like, I'm going to do the best I can, but a lot of it is going to be my own exploring. So, but I always love that about other artists. You know, I love hearing like the Beatles, you know, demos and B-sides. I think that's like more interesting than sometimes the records, you know. So I just feel like a lot of it is just shedding the old mentality of like, all right, let's go in the studio and make a hit and this and that and all that, you know, stuff, especially more in the urban pop world, you know. And I don't think that stuff is like working anymore, and I like that it's not working. I think like there's just so much of everything, so I just want to keep doing what I'm doing and put out as much as I can and have as much fun as I can with it, and just, you know, be as real with it as I can.
And so, Kevin, this is the time in the interview that I give a chance for the individual that comes on my show, just a chance to give shout-outs to whomever they want to give shout-outs to, and also your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you if they're not already doing so.
Yep, you can find me at Kevin Rudolf on Instagram, at Kevin Rudolf on Twitter, at Kevin Rudolf Facebook, everywhere at Kevin Rudolf.
I first and foremost want to say, Kevin, quickly before I get you off the air, truthfully has been a dream come true interview for me. When I first started doing radio, when I first got into this, I always wanted to have you on the air. So, Kevin, thank you so much for making that happen. I'm looking forward to your new album. And again,
for sure, man.
Thank you so much for the years of great music, man. I will forever be a fan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Much appreciated. Thank you for having me, too.
You are most certainly welcome. Have yourself a wonderful night, Kevin.
You too.